Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Kurt, aka the Vitruvian Gamer, and I'm here with a new top list. And this time it is the top 21 games I'm looking forward to the most in 2021. Now, first of all, I've waited to make this list until we got a little bit into the new year, into 2021, because a lot of announcements had to be made, so I wanted to wait a little bit. Of course, on the other side, there will be more announcements this year, and maybe they will be great, awesome, very interesting, and would make it to this list. But they're not there yet, so this is one that's, that's very current, and these are the 21 games that I'm really looking forward to at this moment. Why 21? Well, I was making a list, and I had 17 games, I think. I thought, hey, let's browse a little bit more, and let's see if I can make a top 20, which is a nice round number. So I did, until I earlier today realized that I forgot a game to add a game to the list. So 21, which is my lucky number, so perfect for me. So without further ado, let's get on to it, because 21 titles is not that few, right? So let's go. 21, number 21 is Crash Octopus, and I will put it here, of course. Crash Octopus is a 2 to 4 player game by Iten, which is apparently the publisher's name, and designer Naotaka Shimamoto. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Anyway, this is a dexterity game. I don't know that much about it. I saw a small video about it. This is a dexterity flicking game with some more stuff to it, but it looks kind of small. It doesn't take too much space on the table, which I like about it in the first place. Plus the theme and the components, they look very cute. The tentacles and all that stuff. And I think everything kind of reacts differently, or has certain things if you hit them. I don't know how it works exactly, but this looked like a pretty cute little game, a flicking game, and dexterity games are not my favorite ones, so that's why it's also at the bottom of this list. Number 21, Crash Octopus. Alright, then number 20. Number 20 is Osonia, or Osonia, I don't know how to pronounce it. This is a 1 to 4 player game by Lycan Studio, designed by Zoltan Simon. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this game is all about. This is kind of a deck builder, if I'm not mistaken, but apparently it adds some really interesting twists to it. The artwork looks phenomenal. I really like the artwork. It looks really cool. And Rado, Richard Ham from Rado's Runs Through, he was really lyrical about this game. He really liked this. And, I'm very eager to find out, because if Rado likes it, that means it works really well with 2 players. And, the combination with the artwork makes it interesting for me. Now, sadly enough, this was a Kickstarter, and I missed it. I missed that Kickstarter, didn't realize it was happening, or didn't know the game at all at that time. So I didn't back it, and it's not available yet. And it might not be for a long time, because they haven't found a publisher yet. So that's a little bit sad. And I made notes today, so that's pretty cool. I'm starting to get more professional. Not really. Alright, number 19, the first Portal Games game on the list. There will be a few. It's my link to Portal Games, so I tend to get a little bit more excited about these games. But still, this is number 19. This is Ritual Circus, and Ritual Circus is a 4 to 8 player game designed by Bruno Faiduti. It's kind of a set collection game with personal end game bonuses, so the cards that you can kind of draft or bid for. I don't know exactly how it works. There's very little information about it so far, but different players will have different ways of scoring with the set collection stuff. And that sounds cool. It reminds me a little bit of Point Salad, but I think this is the gamer's version of Point Salad. I'm not sure. Also strange, 4 to 8 players. That's also why it's low on the list, because I don't play many games with more than 4 players, especially in these times, of course. But the cover looks intriguing. It's Portal Games, and the idea of the different in-game scoring options. It sounds really cool. Number 18. Number 18 is It's a Wonderful Kingdom. This is a spiritual successor of It's a Wonderful World, which is a interesting deck builder that I have not played yet. Anyway, It's a Wonderful Kingdom is a 1 to 2 player game from La Boîte de Jeu and designed by Frédéric Guérard. This is card drafting, as I said, and also I Cut You Choose. Now, that's why it didn't make it higher on my list. First of all, I still haven't played It's a Wonderful World. I'm really curious about the game, but I didn't buy it yet, didn't play it yet. So, this is a 1 or 2 player game, mostly 2 player, but you can play it solo apparently. So, it might be more interesting for my wife and I, but on the other hand, I'm not a big fan personally of I Cut You Choose. I know it is an underused mechanism in games, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. So I'm curious to see what this game really brings. Hopefully read the rulebook, and then I can decide whether I prefer It's a Wonderful Kingdom or It's a Wonderful World. Number 17. This is hot from the press. So this got added pretty late, because it just got announced. This is Red Rising by Stonemaier Games and Jamie Stegmaier, together with Alexander Schmidt. This is a hand management combo building game that takes about 45 minutes to an hour, 1 to 6 players, so that's quite a broad number of players you can play this with. The cover looks pretty cool, in my opinion. There are discussions about the cover, but I like it. Now, this is apparently based on a quite popular IP of books that are not popular or very well known here in Belgium. I have never heard of it. I don't know the IP. I don't know anything about the story. I saw someone writing that it's like a darker Hunger Games kind of thing. So it has factions, it looks like. But why is it on my list? Not because, of course, we know Stonemaier Games does great games, right? Although I'm not a big fan of everything they did. So it's hit or miss with them for me. But if they say that if you like Fantasy Realms and Libertalia, then you might like this. And that's what puts this on my list. I love Fantasy Realms. It's great. It's one of the most underestimated games that exists. And Libertalia I played only once, but I remember enjoying it really a lot. And I must say, I've been looking for a copy ever since I played it years ago, but it's hard to find this out of print. So, sounds pretty intriguing for me, combination of those two games. So, Red Rising, I'm curious. Number 16 is the first Kickstarter game here that I backed, so that I will be getting this year. Is Return to Dark Tower. This is a 1 to 4 player game by Restoration Games, and quite big names that worked on this game. Isaac Childress from Gloomhaven fame, Noah Cohen, Rob Davio, Justin D. Jacobson, and Brian Neff. This is a cooperative game, can also be played competitive apparently, and this of course is a new modern version of the Dark Tower, which is apparently a game that many people want to see back because they have a nostalgic feeling about this. Now, I have never played that game in my life. I didn't own it when I was a kid. I never played it. I don't know how it worked. I remember the pictures, so I do know it existed, but I have no clue. Now, why did I back this game? This is, to be honest, the designers that were working on it. But most of all, this, and I must admit, this is a confession, this was 100% FOMO purchase. This is fear of missing out. This one, that's why it's not that so low on the list, number 16, because I'm not sure if it will be something that I'm really into, because I don't have the nostalgic feeling with this. But still, I backed it, I paid for it, so it's coming my way, and it looks cool, that's for sure. The new tower looks very impressive, that's for sure. Right, let's go to number 15, which is one of the biggest hypes of this moment as well. Very recently announced, and that's Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition, which is a 1 to 4 player game by Fricks Games and Stronghold Games, designed by Jacob Frixelius, who did design Terraforming Mars, Sidney Engelstein, and Nick Little. This is a hand management simultaneous action selection game in the world of Terraforming Mars. So, why is it on the list? Because it's Terraforming Mars. As everybody who is excited about this, well, most people like or even love Terraforming Mars. We like it quite a bit as well, and this is a game that plays faster, looks better, that's for sure, but in the end I'm not sure yet. So it's high, it's there on the 15th spot because it's Terraforming Mars, but on the other hand I'm still a little bit reserved because it still adds a small board, so there's still quite a couple of things going on the table as well, and apparently the action selection looks kind of familiar. Looks a lot like those that you see in Race for the Galaxy and all that stuff. So the question is, will it be different or new enough? We will only find out in the future, but still it's Terraforming Mars with good artwork. That's already something. Number 14 is a little bit of a chauvinistic entry here on the list. It's an expansion. So I think that's the only expansion thing I have here in the list. I try to avoid as many. No, there's one more, but I try to avoid as much expansions that I could. But this is Robinson Crusoe: The Book of Adventures. Now, Robinson Crusoe plays 1 to 4 players by Portal Games, but this time, most important designer I would say is Joanna Kijanka, which is a great developer at Portal Games. She did a lot of cool things already now, especially with factions for Empires of the North. Of course, Ignacy is involved there as well. And for me, very important, the contest winners. So they did a contest to enter if you entered your own scenario, and the 10 best scenarios would be developed by Joanna and would be placed in that book. Now, that book will be started this year. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but there will be more scenarios in there, new variants of old scenarios and all that stuff, and mine as well. And that's why I'm so excited about this. You can never have too many Robinson Crusoe scenarios, so I'm really excited, but mostly because it's my favorite game probably, and I'm in there. So yeah. Hey. All right, number 13 is a game that I'm really a nephew of the game that I'm really liking, maybe even a brother or a sister, and that's The Crew Mission Deep Sea, 2 to 5 player game by Cosmos, designed by Thomas Sim. Now, this is a cooperative trick-taking game with missions, and you can go through multiple missions as a complete story. So why is it on my list? Because I really like The Crew. I haven't played it in real life as much as I want to because of the COVID situation, but I have played quite a bit of it online, and I'm really liking it. Now, it's only number 13, and I'm not sure, maybe it should have been a little bit lower, I must admit, now that I see it on my list. Why? Because this might just be just all new missions, but the same game. The cards look the same, only different artwork. Now it is deep sea instead of space. So I'm not sure if this really is as innovating or something as the first one, and I'm not sure if this will follow the hype. But we'll see. I'm still very curious to see what this game brings. Number 12. This is probably the strangest entry in this list for myself, and I'm not sure. I put it quite high, I know, at number 12. This is Korra, Rise of an Empire, which is a 2 to 4 player game by Yellow. And it's designed by Headquarters Simulation Club Volunteer, which I think is a design team, I guess. This game has card drafting, dice rolling things. I'm just saying, there is almost no information about this game. The only thing that I know is that Ignacy Cevicek put it on his list of the 3 most surprising or new games, 3 best new games of 2020, because he got a chance to play it it was offered to him, or as, hey, do you want to do a Polish version? They played it at the office and they voted. And it was unanimous that they really wanted to publish this game in Polish. So that means, well, I asked him, does it play well with 2? He says it works perfectly with 2. I said, wow, the weight level, the number, how heavy the game is quite high. At that time, it was 3.5 or even more, 3.8. He said, that's just not true. It is kind of like a Wingspan level difficulty. I'm curious. I think it might be a little bit more difficult, but we'll see. As I said, I don't know anything about this game. Only that Portal Games really liked it, and that's enough for me to be interested, and I pre-ordered this game because of that. If I don't like it, I will send my bill to Portal Games. Anyway, number 11, another game that I kickstarted. It should be here in a couple of months, I guess. This is Lawyer Up. This is a 2-player game by Rock Manor Games. I forgot to write the designer. I forgot to write that down. This is a kind of this is a card game, but it is actually kind of an area majority set collection game, which is hidden underneath the theme of, well, one player being the prosecutor and one player being the defense in a case. And you are going to play or draft cards. You have a deck, I think, and you're going to try to manipulate the jury and all that stuff with the cards. Why did I put it kind of high at number 11? Because this is this team hasn't been done yet, right? So I'm really curious to see how it plays, but the team alone was enough for me to be pretty excited about this. 2-player games, which are perfectly fine for me at this moment. So I really like 2-player games at this moment because they are needed, that's for sure. But it looks cool, the artwork is pretty neat, and the theme is just so unique that I'm putting it on number 11. But number 10, we're going to in the top 10 now. Number 10 is the game that I forgot to put in the list, so I had to put everything down by one spot. This is a game called Origins First Builders by Board and Dice, designed by Adam Kwapinski. And this is, I'm not sure, I didn't read everything, but I think it's a kind of dice drafting or kind of game with tile placements. You're building a civilization. This is kind of a city building or civilization building game. It looks gorgeous. I really like the aesthetics of this game, so I'm really curious how it brings. Board and Dice, they have all these unpronounceable games, of which I'm not the biggest fan, but if they do something else like this and it looks pretty cool, I'm in. Especially if it has kind of a dice drafting stuff, then I'm really curious about it, and I hope to get my hands on a copy as soon as possible. Right, let's go. Number 9. Portal Games again, folks. This is the other expansion. I think that's the last one. Yeah, kinda. So an expansion for Empires of the North called Wrath of the Lighthouse. This is for 1 player, because this is designed by Joanna Kijanka as well, that I already mentioned earlier. This is a mission or campaign solo mode for Empires of the North. So this adds missions that you can play solo. You can play them separately, or you can go through a series of missions as a campaign. It adds new things, new cards, event cards, and all that stuff. So it adds a lot to it, and that's why I added it, because I really like that solo mode, or the solo variant for Empires of the North. It's really fun to do, and you can play with so many factions at this, or clans at this moment, that every scenario is you still have to figure out, because you have to play differently, because your clans are so different. And if it adds even more stuff that makes the solo game better or more deep, well, then I'm in, and Empires of the North, Wrath of the Lighthouse is a must-have for me. Number 8. Number 8 is Well, the strangest player count on this list, that's for sure, is 1 to 3 players. You don't see that often, right? This is by Lucky Duck Games and Mythic Games, designed by Michal Goliebowski and Filip Miluński. And this is called Destinies. Now, Destinies is a scan and play adventure game, storytelling game. So you're having an adventure, you're doing stuff, but everything that you see and meet and everybody that you meet and items that you get, they all have this QR code. And you're going to be able to interact with these things by scanning them with your phone. But you can also combine stuff or ask people about certain items or about certain people. This is what they did with Chronicles of Crime, put into an adventure game, and that looks just great. Also, Mythic Games, by the way, is the ones that did Joan of Arc, so they have experience with big games, what this will be, and Lucky Duck Games has the experience with the QR codes, and put that together, I am really curious to see what this game will bring. It's a campaign game. I hope I find time to play these things, but I'm really curious to see and find out myself what this game does. Talking about campaign games, folks, number 7. Wow, this was a game that I backed on Kickstarter as well, as I did with Destinies as well, by the way. This is 1 to 4 player games by well, I said Kickstarter, but actually it was on GameFound, because this is by Awaken Realms. The designers are Michal Oracz, Paweł Samborski, Krzysztof Piskorski, and Marcin Swirkot. This is a co-op game, campaign game, where you can play missions, and you're in outer space. You're a member of the ISS Vanguard, looking for different worlds, new civilizations, to boldly... No, I should not say that. But anyway... I back this because it is, again, by Awaken Realms, a unique game. This has something brand new to it. Your ship, your spaceship, the ISS Vanguard, is a binder that has all these maps into it where you will add cards. It also has the rules of everything, of every part of the ship, what it does, what you can do there. So you have to manage your ship. You will be upgrading them and all that stuff. You have your crew that can have different upgrades, and then you go to a planet and you put this big book on the table with different parts. You take the correct page and you go there, and there are all these things to discover. You have to figure out who will I bring, what will I bring to that planet, and every planet will be a new adventure, new things to discover. And well, if they bring the idea a little bit of ether fields into it, mixed with some Nemesis, mixed with some other things, Michal Oracz, I will mention him for sure. He has an interesting brain and he has interesting ideas, and I'm really curious to see what this game does. Alright, but number 6, also backed on Kickstarter. There are quite a bit of Kickstarter games in here that I backed that I'm still excited about, and this one is Roll Camera, the filmmaking board game. This is 1 to 4 player game by Keen Bean Studio, designed by Malachi Ray Rampen. This is a cooperative game with the theme of making a movie. So in this game, you are making a movie, which for me is reason enough to be excited and to put this on my number 6. I cannot remember everything. It also has some pattern building and set collection stuff, because you want to make put the scenes into the right place, I think. When it was released on Kickstarter, it looked okay, but because of the stretch goals that they could add and some ideas of the backers, I think they improved the game quite a bit. Also the aesthetics, and I'm really curious because just this team. I worked I worked at a multimedia store, and I worked in the entertainment department, selling movies and games and music. But movies really got my attention at that time, and so this still has a place in my heart, this team, and I'm really looking forward. It is from a not that known or unknown publisher, so might be their first game. so I hope it is good, but I have good hopes for it. Number 5, top 5, folks. This is another big one, another Kickstarter game, 1 to 4 players. And if you've noticed, there are a lot of 1 to 4 player games on this list, so I can play a lot of these solo, but most of them will be played 2 players, I think. This is by Thunderworks Games, by Keith Matejka, Peter Andrew Ryan, James William Ryan. This is Role Player Adventures, a cooperative dice rolling storytelling campaign game where you are in the world of Role Player, the great, awesome game as well. And you're going on adventures, and you're going to have to decide sometimes what will you do, where you will go, and then you have this cool dice. You will roll dice, and you have to determine, well, reach certain objectives with those dice, with numbers, with their color, whatever, and that will succeed or not succeed your actions. You will be reading a lot of, there's a storybook there that you will be asked to read, different kinds of, well, you have all these branches that you can go into depending on what you do, what you decide, if you succeed in your roles and all that stuff. Looks awesome. It really looks awesome, and I think I saw, I read something about one of the Man vs. Meeple people that said, wow, this is really going to surprise a lot of people. So I'm really, really eager to get that game in my hands. Number 4 is the other game that I missed on Kickstarter, but apparently it looks like there's a late pledge that will still open, so I subscribed for that already. This might be the lightest game on the list, and it still got very high. This is called Cascadia, and Cascadia is a 1 to 4 player game by Flat Out Games, designed by Randy Flynn. This is a tile drafting and tile placement game that plays in about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And I recently read the rules, and it sounds that is pretty light. It is very, very straightforward. You have this, you have environment tiles, hexagon tiles, and you have animal tiles. And I think there are 5 different animals. And you put a random combination, a couple of random of those combinations, one environment, one animal tile on the table. And if it's your turn, you pick one of those combinations. You have some tokens that you can choose differently with, but the basic move is to take a combination, one environmental tile and one animal tile, and you place them into your own tableau, and you're building your own environment. And that's kind of it. And there are scoring cards out there, how you want to build it. Besides that, not that many rules. Very straightforward game. So why is it on here? Because I need those straightforward games. On the other hand, Rado, again, Richard Ham, loved this game apparently, so it must play great with 2 players. So it still got my attention, and it might be kind of a substitute for me for Ecos, which I really liked, but my friends didn't. So I sold it, and I still miss it a little bit. And this has kind of the same theme a little bit. So I'm curious if this can be the one that replaces that. All right, top 3, folks. Number 3, I already mentioned its original game's name when I was talking about ISS Vanguard. This is Nemesis Lockdown, 1 to 5 player game by Awaken Realms again, designed by Adam Kwapinski. Wasn't he on the ISS Vanguard game as well? I'm not sure. Didn't he? No, he wasn't. Anyway, this is a cooperative or semi-cooperative survival game in the world of Nemesis, but differently. So you could call it an expansion, but it's a standalone game. Why did I back it? Because I love Nemesis. Boy, that's one of the most thematic games that I ever played. I really enjoy it. Now this Kickstarter also has all the expansions were available as well. I backed those as well because I wanted more stuff for my Nemesis game. Oh boy, it's such an awesome game that I had to back this one, and I'm looking forward to this game. And that's one that will be coming pretty soon, I think. if I'm not mistaken, they were already waiting on pallets to be loaded into containers in China, but there is a lack of containers in China. And I work in the harbor here in Belgium, and I know that there are problems with containers in China and other countries. Anyway, let's go to number 2, folks. Number 2 is my last Portal Games game. It's not because it's Portal Games, well, it's partly because it's Portal Games. This game is called 11. It's a football manager board game. 1 to 4 players again. Designer Thomas Janssen from the Netherlands. And this is a scenario-based football management simulation game, kinda. This is a re-implementation, or this is a developed version of a game called Club Stories, of which I've done a video, a walkthrough video, and I think also a how to play video. I'm not sure anymore. But this was my first and only game where I was mentioned on the box cover. Now, this also was by Thomas Janssen, and he prints his own game. So he designs these games and he prints them and sells them himself. Of course, that has its limits. But I really liked how that game worked. But it could use some polishing. Now, if Portal Games takes that game and we add a little bit Ignacy Cevicek, who loves football, well, then as a football lover as well, I'm in. I'm definitely in this. I'm looking forward so much to see what Portal Games has done with this game, which was already pretty cool, but of course it needed some extra love of a professional publisher. And wow, I'm so eager to play this game, and I will this one will be showcased on the channel for sure. Definitely. But it's not my number 1. There is one more, and it surprised me. It also wasn't announced that long ago. This game is The Initiative. I love the title already, The Initiative. This is a 1 to 4 player game by Unexpected Games. Now, you might not know that publisher because it's a brand new one. But if you hear who's behind this publisher, who is this publisher, it's Cory Konieczka, who is the designer of multiple awesome, big, impressive games of Fantasy Flight games. But he decided to leave his nest and go on his own, fly away and make his own company. And this is their first game, The Initiative. This is a cooperative game, a cooperative deduction puzzle game. Now, I cannot tell you that much about it because, well, he's doing multiple parts designer diary about this game. So I advise you to check it out on Board Game Geek. So The Initiative, go check it out. So why do I like this or put it on my number 1 spot here? Well, the designer, of course, who apparently had ideas that he could not do in the constraints of a big publisher, which is of course understandable, but apparently had these awesome ideas that he now finally can make happen into board games, and he's throwing out this one here. It adds things that we've never seen before in board games, and I'm so curious. So it's supported with a comic book as well, so you're going to read a page of a comic book and then you stop, and that's where you go onto a map and you have to find out things and you're trying to decipher a code or whatever. Apparently there are multiple kinds of types of puzzles in there for each something they might or they probably will like. Word games, more math games, or other stuff. He couldn't tell everything, of course, but I'm so eager to find. The cover art alone, I'm super duper intrigued by this game. That's also why it's my number 1 most anticipated game of this year so far, because as I already mentioned, there will be quite a lot of more games coming out this year than these 21. I recently saw a video of Board Game Gran, who has an awesome channel, She did her list as well. I think she had more games than I did, and there were a lot of games that I did not put on my list. So there are a lot of games. I can already think about games that, of course, a lot of people will have on their list. Ankh, the new game in the Blood Rage Cyclus by Eric Lang, for example, with only mentioning one, Dead's Reckoning, the big pirate game with the sleeve cards where you can well, I don't know how it's called, the system, but still, and many more. I've went through the release list of this year. There are so many cool looking games out there, and Darwin's Journey, for example, that was so big on Kickstarter as well, and so many others, which didn't make it to my list. I think my taste of games changed a little bit with the COVID, I must admit, but it might be a story for another time. Anyway, these were my 21 most anticipated games. If you know, by the way, for me a way to get my hands when it's released on Osonia, the number 20 game, I put it that high because I'm not sure if I will be able to get it. But if you know a way for me to get a hold of that game, let me know in the comments below. Also, the Crash Octopus, I think that was Kickstarter as well, that I probably just passed by, and now I realize that it might still be interesting to play. Anyway, a lot of things, a lot of games coming that I'm really excited about. Time for me to cull a little bit of my collection because I'm out of space. Anyway, thank you for watching this list. In the comments below, let me know what is your or are your most anticipated games for this year. I really want to know what you're waiting for, what you're hyped about, excited about, waiting for. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, give a thumbs up if you want. If you are not subscribed yet and are, well, wondering, maybe I just want to see a little bit more of what this random Belgian dude has to say, feel free to push the subscribe button. Anyway, whatever you do, thank you for watching, thank you for being here, for being the most awesome people in the entire world, and I will see you next time. See you very soon. Bye bye.